Are white umbrellas very rare in daily life anyway? In my memory, I really haven't seen many white umbrellas. So today's story comes from a netizen, Mr. Su. In the summer vacation of his sophomore year in 2015, his third aunt from Jiaxing, Zhejiang, called Xiao Su and asked him to come over and have fun for a few days. Xiao Su went with joy. His third aunt has a son who is Xiao Su's cousin and works as a network administrator in an internet cafe. They live on the second floor of an old community with 2 rooms, a living room, a small bathroom, and a small kitchen. This is the background of the story. During those days, he stayed comfortably at his third aunt's place, enjoying food and drink, and also took Xiao Su to visit scenic spots such as Yuehe Ancient Town and Nanhu. Then one day it rained, and the cousin, who usually got off work at 6 o'clock, didn't come back until 8. After dinner and a shower, Xiao Su and his cousin lay in bed playing with their phones until about 11:30 before going to sleep. The next morning, Xiao Su was still sleeping with his cousin. Suddenly, he was awakened by his third aunt. She first called them to get up and have breakfast, and secondly, she was a bit confused, asking if they were hungry last night. She went into the kitchen looking for food and found that the kitchen cabinet doors were all open. After hearing what Xiao Su and his cousin said, they shook their heads and said no, insisting on sleeping until daylight. Then, Xiao Su went back to his third aunt and said that even if he was hungry, he wouldn't go to the kitchen to find food, he would only go to the refrigerator, let alone move things around in the kitchen like that. Upon hearing this, his third aunt was full of doubts. Since they all said they didn't go to the kitchen, how did all the kitchen cabinet doors open? She muttered to herself, wondering if it could be mice. Xiao Su and his cousin had just woken up, and after hearing what their third aunt said, they didn't think much about it and thought it might be the work of mice, so they went to wash up and eat. As a result, life continued as usual for the new day. Xiao Su stayed at home while his third aunt and cousin went to work, and the day passed with eating, drinking, playing with phones, and sleeping. The next day, his third aunt woke them up at breakfast time, but this time she was very anxious and directly asked them to go to the kitchen to take a look. The result was the same. All the cabinets for bowls and miscellaneous items in the kitchen were all opened straight up. At that time, Xiao Su cursed in his heart and then had a question: could this be done by mice? Then his third aunt showed Xiao Su and his cousin her wallet. The zipper on the bag was broken, as if it had been torn off directly. Every time she came home, her bag would be placed on the shoe cabinet at the door. She remembered very clearly that the bag was still good yesterday, and in the morning she found that the zipper had been torn off. At that time, Xiao Su's first reaction was to think that there might be a thief in the house, but his third aunt said that the windows and doors of the house had been checked. Because the bedroom, living room, and kitchen on the second floor were all stainless steel welded security windows, the only way for someone to enter was through the door. But because his third aunt and cousin lived together, they had a habit of locking the door with a safety lock before going to bed every night. That morning, the door was still locked, and if someone entered the house and closed the door, it would not be possible to lock the safety. After a long time of not finding a reason, they had breakfast and continued with the new day. As a result, another thing happened that night, which made Xiao Su and his cousin look very confused. During those days, due to the continuous rain, the temperature dropped to around 10 degrees. The cool weather did not require the use of electric fans or air conditioning. In the evening, Xiao Su and his cousin wrapped themselves in thin quilts and played with their phones before going to sleep. Xiao Su remembered very clearly that because of the cool weather, the electric fan by their bedside was not turned on at all, and there was no need to turn it on. As a result, Xiao Su was awakened by the electric fan in the middle of the night. His first reaction to the cold was to think of the things that had happened at home in the past 2 days. He was a bit scared, so he kicked his cousin, who was sleeping like a dead pig. He asked him if he had turned on the electric fan. His cousin looked confused and shook his head, saying no. Then Xiao Su asked his cousin, "We have never turned on the electric fan when we go to bed at night. It's not you who turned it on, and it's not me who turned it on. Could it be that the electric fan turned itself on then?" Hearing what Xiao Su said, his cousin's face changed from the reflection of the computer screen to panic, and then he got out of bed timidly to turn off the fan, and then said he was a bit scared, but because he woke up in the middle of the night and played with his phone. Very late, he was also very sleepy, wrapped in a thin quilt, covered his head, and continued to sleep. They planned to tell their third aunt about it the next day. The next morning, Xiao Su told his third aunt about the situation, and she was also very confused, saying that she found the door was half closed when she got up in the morning, but it was obviously locked last night, and the kitchen cabinet doors were also open. After hearing this, the three of them looked at each other. Well, after breakfast, his third aunt and cousin left for work first. Xiao Su planned to go out for a walk and then go to his cousin's internet cafe to surf the internet, because he was afraid to be at home alone. As a result, just as he was about to go out, his third aunt called Xiao Su and asked in the phone if he had seen the white umbrella his cousin used on the shoe cabinet at home. Xiao Su looked and said there was one on the shoe cabinet. Then his third aunt's voice suddenly became cautious, and she suspected that there was a problem with the white umbrella. Then his third aunt said that Xiao Su only knew that the day the kitchen cabinet doors were opened was the first day the white umbrella entered the house. It was raining that night, and after his cousin got off work from the internet cafe, he saw a white umbrella hanging on his bicycle. His cousin looked at the umbrella on the bike, and at first thought that someone had put it in the wrong place by mistake, but it was raining at the time, and he thought there was only one umbrella that could be used. No matter whose it was, he would use it first. This was what his third aunt found out when she called his cousin in the morning. His third aunt asked Xiao Su to take the umbrella to a busy road or shopping mall, throw it on the ground, and leave it there, saying that the umbrella was probably not clean. So what was magical was that since the umbrella was lost, there really were no more strange things happening at home. Later, Xiao Su found out that there was an umbrella called the soul-hiding umbrella, so his cousin was likely to bring it back. So brothers, it's best not to take things that are not yours. What you think is a bargain may be a trap. Well, see you at the next story.